Hopefully the orientation went right there, because it was being a bit silly. Let's hope so. Looks the right way up. Okay, I've zoomed out a little bit so we can watch what's going on here as well tonight. Okay, let everything catch up a little bit. And I'll write this all on a little piece of paper. Good evening, guys. Let the live people catch up on the website. This would be boring if you're watching this back, this bit. Good evening, Kubler. How are you doing, mate? Just letting the screen catch up. We're a bit wobbly there at the start. Okay. I'll do this for the people who are going to watch it back and for Kubler. Right, tonight we have a special pre-order from Gripping Beast. It's this chap here. Before we show you the miniature, and Gripping Beast are celebrating 30 years of Gripping Beast this February. Let's just turn this sound down on me over. What's going on here? Sorry guys, I can have a weird echo. That should be all right now. Yeah, sorry about that. Yeah, so what they've done is the original Beastie, I suppose, is the best way to describe him. Duncan Patten has sculpted a special miniature to celebrate 30 years. Now, I'm going to slay the name of this guy, and I'm sure Ben will put us right later. I found two pronunciations on Google for him. It's Kári or Kári Sölmundarson. That's a bit of a mouthful, isn't it? So basically, he's from Njál's saga. So he's going to be part of the Njál, Gunnar, and Skarphedin set that they do, and he's going to be on pre-order for February now. So you can go and order him now. And this one's fresh out the master mold yesterday. He's a cracker. Look at that. It is a cracking looking miniature. It comes, this body and head all in one part, and the arms come separate at the sleeve. So I didn't have time, so they only got it to me today because it literally came out the mold yesterday. So I didn't have time to do a proper job on his arms. But I think, given the chance, I would probably put little rods in them. But they're nice and flat anyway, so they do glue on quite well. But yeah, that's, I think you guys can see him nice and clear. You've done a wonderful job on him. So without further ado, I shall start painting and see what we can. Yeah, I did play around with the arm quite a bit because you can get a lot of different angles on there. There's a bit of a kink in the sleeve to locate it, and I took that off so I could spin his arm round. So literally you can more or less have him pointing upwards as well, which looks quite funny. And the same with his sword arm, you can actually move his sword up and down. So even it's only just those two things, you can actually make him look quite different. Yeah, but I just had him at that angle because it was like, yeah, you're getting it now. But yeah, there we go. So we're going to start painting these. It's not a complicated figure, which means you can spend a bit of extra time on the basics, which is good. We're going to start with moonstone skin. I thought it'd be nice to show you what goes on in my palettes tonight, because there's not a lot going on detail wise. So as you see, that's onto the wet palette. There's my medium. Let's bring that a little bit more. And this is what people want to see, is how much medium I put. That's the question I keep getting sent, is how much medium. Now I just drag it away from the edge. So I end up with a pile of paint, like raw paint as it were, and then I end up with my right hand side is a bit more diluted, if you can see that. Now I was just having a look at this guy, and if you want it slightly stronger, you can kind of drag the pure paint into the stuff that you thin. Do you see what I mean? You pour the next pile of it in. So I hope you all had a good week. Yeah, he is a good mini. I think it's as well. They've just done a skirmish game as well. There's more. I think there's more about it on the Beastie Boys site. And I believe it's being demoed as VAP or whatever it is at York. When they keep saying, you should come up there and do some painting, and I go, it's a long way for me to drive. It is a truly nice, clean sculpt, this as well. And there's a chance for you guys to have some input on the miniatures. I think it's going back to them tomorrow, so. I looked at his legs and I thought, I know, it's lots of flesh, but these are definitely very tight leggings because you got like a little crease there. So we'll have fun with some leggings as well. Because I was, like earlier on I saw it, and I thought, oh, you could paint it as flesh if you wanted to. Yeah, I'd definitely drop a order on there, but I know they've put the I know it's up on their site already. I thought you guys might like to. Yeah, so when Darren, in a flappy panic, as well as panicky as Darren can get, in fairness, which isn't very. Oh, could you do a miniature for us tomorrow night and the paints? And I thought, yeah, this is what I think this channel's for. Is just having a look at what's new as well. It's quite nice. Yeah, I do. A day of running around, a day of errands. big shout out to Big Battles in Cirencester. Yeah. Let me have another table for the crow's nest. Another gaming table to put together. Hopefully I'll be able to do Sunday. If we're heading down this weekend, I'm afraid I'm going to be out of the crow's nest on Saturday, but in here on Sunday. Hopefully back to normal next week. So I've just gone around and given him 2 thin coats, as Duncan would say. I wasn't trying to steal his catchphrase, it's just what I've done. I usually don't bother, I usually just obviously do the one, because I've done the Zenithal undercoat, and we usually chuck a bit of speed paint on, but I'm going to layer the flesh up, so quite a nice layer. Next we are going to get his chainmail on. That goes into the dry palette. This is just the gunmetal using a crappy brush. Bit medium. See, just a little dip. You can see that it's hardly wet, it's not full brush load. Just so when we gently tap it against this chainmail, it sits nicely down into it rather than on top. Yeah. That's lovely to find chainmail, that is. Nice. Yeah, it's nice when somebody gives you an excuse to go and order something, isn't it? That's weird. Not sure why the camera moved there. Bit more medium into the chainmail. Again, where it's a really nicely sculpted miniature, it's going to be really, you could paint this so quick. I mean, if you want to get them done rapid double time, you could wash over that flesh, wash over the chainmail. You could even paint his legs in flesh as well if you really wanted to speed it up. Hello G, you alright mate? If you're just joining us, it's not dig. I just want to tell you who we're painting tonight. Let's see if I find my piece of paper. I'm going to call him, one says Kári and one says Kári. I suppose it's your accent. I'll say we'll find out when Ben gets here. So we'll go First of all, I said Kári, but it's not. It's more Kári or Kári. Sölmundarson, and he's the pre-order miniature of Griffin Beast for their 30th anniversary. So yeah, he's a big old Viking from the Njál sagas. Njal, Gunnar, Skarphedin. I think Skarphedin was, or is it Heady? I'm not sure. I always call him Skarphedin because he was a bit of a headbanger, really. He's the one, I believe, and I'll stand to be corrected if I'm wrong on video, that, do you know in the Lord of the Rings films, and Legolas slides down the hill on a shield? Apparently Skarphedin did that, but he was like a 6-foot massive Viking. I don't think he did it with a bow. I think I can't remember. I just remember the bit where he slid down a hill on a shield. So yeah. So it's interesting that a lot of our fantasy films actually come in from the sagas, which were the original fantasy films, weren't they, really? Some of the Vikings ones are crazy as well. That chainmail took that gun metal really well. Nice. Okay, so a couple of decisions here. When I thought about I was doing his legs, his flesh, I thought about doing a green tunic. But I'm thinking about doing green leggings and maybe a red tunic. We could do a blue one. Definitely green leggings. Okay, let's go far left with this one. Yes, that's a recurring theme through all the sagas, isn't it? Somebody's always peed off with someone else. So yeah, I'm going for, sorry, I didn't tell what paint I was using there. This is Midnight Olive, which is one of the John Blanche ones. So it's one below the 6 of the olive greens. Yes, very much so. Now I'm putting lots of medium into that one. Nice and thin. So this is the darkest of the olives. So really I want it to run nicely into all the I was so tempted just to do these as flesh. So it's like, and then I thought, wow, this tunic's quite short, so I think, I say there is wrinkles in them, so definitely he's wearing leggings. If I'm wrong, Colin, I apologise. Is that zoomed in enough tonight, guys? Because I've backed it off so you can see what's going on the palettes. You can't usually get those. I'll definitely hold it close to the camera and do some detail. Oh, talking of detail work, sorry I didn't get back to the 100-Year War cavalry and do the thing. I did it the next day and I recorded some of it and I tried to edit it and I buggered it. So then I did a photo, loads of photos of them, and they were rubbish. And then, my photos, since I've moved up the crow's nest, my photography, because I was all set up in my old, on Pirate Island, I did the same thing, the lights were all set up, blah, 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 blah. And I've not been able to get it looking the same up here. And then I realised the other day, after taking the 100-year war pictures, which I hated, I realised I'd set the camera settings on wrong. So I've reset those. So hopefully I get some pictures, because they're all finished, they're all done up. Right, next one's on the olive. We're going to go woodland camo and army green. So I'll put them out now. A little splurge. They do that if you've not used them for a It's not bad. Yeah, I don't use this army green for army green, if you know what I mean. There we go. Okay, so olives. Might as well work on those. See if I can move this light just a little bit backwards. No, it's right against that. That's better. So this is the middle one, which was that woodland green, woodland camo. Then we add lots of medium, and you spin your brush to make sure there's not too much in there. Get a nice point. We work round, not right up against his tunic, so we're leaving a bit of shadow, and then take out his knee. So we're looking for the raised areas. We want to leave all the stuff up underneath where he is. This is our mid. We do 3 on this one. Just onto his knee. We're not going to go right up underneath because there's shadow. He's raised. See, it's definitely wearing things. He's got a crease in this. Otherwise, he's got creasy legs, and yeah, that would be good. And because you're using quite thin paint, it will dry quite quick. But my medium has got some retarder in it, so if I do move quickly, I can actually get a kind of a wet blend. So now we're looking for the highest highlights, which is going to be around the top of his knee there, just that bit in between his knee and the edge of his tunic. Maybe a bit on there, just suggesting a little bit of light to your eyes. Yeah, I couldn't catch up with Darren earlier to find out if this is going back into their display cabinet or whether it's going to live at the crow's nest. I'm not sure. Okay, so that's the colours of We could go another lighter colour. Let's see where it goes with that one. Okay, so next is his tabard. Now we could go red on the tabard, or we could do a nice blue tabard. I mean, red is the colour of anger, isn't it? In fairness, but he seems angry enough as it is. I'm thinking blue, guys. What do you think? What are you thinking about that? I will carry on with skin. So our next flesh is agate skin. Bit of medium in there. I basically keep it on, going on the palette there until you can really tell the difference between, as you see, you tell the difference between that's the whole paint. I'll even go thinner than that, as you can see up here. So now we'll go across the eyebrows. Stay away from the hairline, but I'm going to trace round it, if you know what I mean. So on that darker flesh around there. Stop before we get to that crease. Then highlight the other side of it. The back of his ear. Top of his ear. A bit more medium. Come on this side, we're going to go around the outside of his ear. He's got veins coming up on his neck as well. Proper angry dude. Yeah, so I was going to go with blue so I can actually do a fancy bits on him. You read my mind because you know what I was doing. I'm going to come down the middle of the nose. Going to brush out a little bit more underneath his eyes, onto the top of his cheekbones. Yeah. We're doing the top of his hands with that edge of his thumb there. Done that pointy finger. And the hand here. From this our first highlight, so it's still just really strengthening up the colour that's there still, because this is our like mid-tone. But again, you stay out of the valleys, on the peaks. It's very, very true, Coops. I'm just going to work back around, pick out any highlights this first pass. You see that shade around the top of his ear? I don't know how much it. So I'm just going to decrease that a little bit. So I'm going to do it all with brushwork tonight. I'm not going to use the wash. Okay, let's pick a blue. Pick a blue, pick a blue. I'm going to go with a navy blue, but it's a bit purpley. Night sky's a little bit grey. This imperial blue is going to be a bit blue and a bit more desaturated than that. Maybe go for this blue. Start with that one. Yeah. Oh, pardon me. So this is deep blue green, deep ocean blue. So we keep the paints out tonight that I use. Over there so they get focused on. I can put them away afterwards. We've used that one and that one. And at the end we do these are all the paints that we used, kind of thing, because we never do that. Yeah, speed paints have definitely got their place, especially if you're painting large batches. And sometimes I think if you want a particularly bright looking miniature, you can use them to your advantage, because like definitely some of them are really wickedly bright if you put them over the right colours. This is a thinned out blue. But something like this is a special miniature. I will do, I've done a few videos on speed paints, but I haven't actually done any speed painting on camera for a while. Perhaps that's something for next week. Perhaps I should, is it something you'd want to see, G? I used to do a challenge, can I paint 12 archers in one session, and all sorts of stuff. It's originally why this channel started, was to do that, to show people how to, well, not show people how to, but show people how I get stuff knocked through. I hate saying it that way. It's not. I think in some instances, the speed paint actually slows you down if you're painting with a nice workflow. And but you see how matte these paints come out when you're using a lot of matte medium in them. I really just love how matte they go. How thin was that paint going on and how well is it covered? Still maintain the army paint stuff. Covers far better when you thin it. And some Vallejo just doesn't like it. Just some does, but some doesn't. And that weirded me out the other day. I was playing around with it. Yeah, speed paint on Gene Stealers and that is brilliant. As face facts, I think the contrast paints and speed paints were built for painting stuff like that, weren't they? I'll grab some black wash and we'll do that on the chainmail so it can be drying. Any black wash will do, Known oil, anything. Or dark tone from Army Painter. Remember, dark tone needs matte medium in it because it's so mega dark, which is nice. This is a mixture I make up myself, which has got matte medium. I think a long time ago it was Known oil, and it's add. I just fill it up every so often, so it's a mixture of stuff. Oil, ink, black ink with medium in it. Any of that jazz. I know when I did my original Cheerleader Gene Stealers armies many moons ago, I did them in 10s and different colours, which kind of looked cool, and it made them really much easier to use on tabletop. Put down the blade. So 38 minutes in, and yeah, that is a bit of a problem. Bloody heck. Okay. Let's get the rest of the blue to use it. So we go Bissell blue and Tidal blue. And we may go one higher. Let's see how it looks. The things in these blue greens is I found the jump in the tones are very high from the base colour, so sometimes you have to put a bit of a wash in there. But let's see what we got. Add the medium in there. That's where we want it. Now we're going to start working around. Remember, stay on the high points. That bottom edge will always be light. Stay on the peaks. And try not to get too high against the edge of that chainmail. I'm working that down the edge of the valleys as well. Yeah, it's buggering it. I mean, even we don't get these massive extremes over here really, but I know in the summer I was really struggling with my paint. That affects over here more, I think. I mean, last summer there was a couple of days I just had to stop painting because the paint just didn't work, even with lots of retardant in them. They were just drying that quick that I just couldn't do nothing. Until you put the fans on, and the fans almost dry it as much as the heat, so it's almost like putting a hairdryer on a minute. Yeah, I mean, I'm lucky I've got the um I've got a little spray booth in this room, so it's pretty cool. But even sometimes you come in here and it's the air temperature's knackered. The hair dry next to you, sort of do a bit of spraying, a bit of hair drying, a bit of spraying. And just working around that blue again, just strengthening the areas I've been in. Yeah, brush on primer's not bad. When I brush primer, the Vallejo isn't great for brushing, I don't think. It's alright, it still works. But I do like there's a grey army painter primer brush on. That works when I've got to do a couple of shows I've done. I always take that with me because it dries really nice and quick. And you can thin it just chatting, just paint a bit of blue on his hand. There we go. Making sure it gets nice cuffs. Okay. Okay. And watch that. And then we're going to go to the highest blue we're using, which was that tidal blue, dark greenish blue. Yeah, I thought it was quite good, and the gloss varnish in there is very good. If I need to use any gloss varnish, I use that with a brush. I use Vallejo for the matte, but I found the army painter. So this next blue, we're just going to go down the top of the peaks, around the edge of the tabards. Just then inside the areas we've just highlighted. Yeah, sorry, I was saying, yeah, the matte lacquer from Blair I really like. And then if I need to gloss anything, I tend to use the Army Painter one. I don't know what I think it's because I use it with a brush. The Flare gloss one doesn't. I don't know. Perhaps it's just me. I think it's all just a personal preference, really. I think go for a stage of using like satin finishes on stuff. And for a bit, I used AK Ultra Matte. So on that arm there, I'll just hit that top edge. Okay, let's get the base of our browns down. Go with our favourite Brigadier brown. Well, I've been using carnelian skin to give it that sort of reddy look recently as well. Keeping the favourite. A sort of Rhinoxy high kind of look. And so yeah, he's got some big old boots. As I said, there, I'm not sure. I think they opened the pre-orders on these today. I'm not sure. I know the release date is the 2nd of Feb. So yeah, just this brown, just a bit of medium in there, just to keep everything happily flowing on there, really. Yes, of course, it's -10, and then that's just going to make it freeze quicker, I suppose, with that, isn't it? So you can put vodka in it. Oh, that'll do for the paint. Certainly helped in Conan the Barbarian, didn't it? That's one of my favourite stories from that film. If you haven't heard it, I shall tell the story now. The big scene where Arnie hacks the giant snake to death. The first takes of them, they were struggling because the blood kept freezing everywhere. So they put spirits in it. Vodka was, I think, the thing. So the actors realised and started drinking it. Just there's a picture of the crew walking around. Their faces all like vampires and just cracked out of their head. These boots certainly were made for walking, my friend. I think it's safe to say he's knocked it out of the park, this miniature. Just keeping that medium going in there. Yeah, I mean, let's face it. So we take this miniature for instance, because I keep saying it's such a good sculpt, because you know when you got a good sculpt, it's like those front rank ones, because you can paint them really quick and they're still going to look good. You know. It's like this. You could literally grab a couple of speed paints and some silver, and that's it. And it's still going to look pretty snazzy. Well, that's the other bit you have to glue on the scabbard separate. So I just stuck it on there, but obviously you could stick it wherever you like, really. It's your miniature. Yeah, we did the tidal blue, but I think we're going to go another blue up from there. Which is phalanx blue. Now I think this is where they do fall down on some of the triads. Is if you look at the steps, sometimes it's a little bit of a jump, but it's not too bad on this triad. But this is where thinning your paint comes in. You're always blending it with you're showing the paint below. You struggle when you put it out on your palette like this. You can mix some of the old one into some of the new one and make a mid coat, but you make yourself a lot of work. It depends what level you're painting to. If you're getting into kind of show painting, competition painting, that's how you've got to do your blends. But in the real world, so we're just going to go anywhere we want a mega highlight. So it's right on the top of those peaks, and then suggesting a little bit. When I'm doing it around the bottom, rather than painting it along that way, I'm giving it some little lines. So you just start up at the edge and flick it up a little bit, and then just along the edge of there. When you're hitting highlights, you don't want too many, because all you're doing is overpainting your other paint then. I'm going to just tap along that edge. Almost just doop, 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 doop. Don't want to go too far in, but I want it to be that shape, if you know what I mean. So you've got a bit of a semicircle going on there. A bit more medium. Back in the paint. Swirl your brush. Now I'm looking at the top of his arm there. I'm looking at those high raised edges. On the cuff there. If there's anywhere where you're going to put extra highlights, is up here, because his arm's right in the light. But as soon as it goes round past that point of no return, there'll be none of this highlight around there. Okay, round here, so there's going to be on his elbow and across the top of his arm. There we go. So if you get to a point where your blends aren't looking nice, don't panic, just keep building up, and then at the end do a glaze or a wash over the top, and you can take the blends in there. We're going to just take his cruise at one more green as well. So instead of the standard 3, we're 4. So this one's called camouflage, which is kind of halfway up the olive greens, as you can see. But remember, we started one below that. I think Nick Ayres has got the other 2 sets in now, so I will order them up. And this one's been, let's say, it's got a bit dried up in the top. Just open that up. Again, it's quite rare you use this sort of light olive, especially if you use the one below it, because we're going to open that up with some medium. It's nice and really, we could have had just a dot of this because we're not going to use very much of it at all. If the brush is too wet, look, there's lots of wet in there. How wet that brush is. It's too wet to go near miniature. Because all will happen is that wet in the top of the brush will come through the paint and you'll dump it all on your miniature like this. You see how wet that is on there. We're not going to control that, so what we do now is we wash the brush out, because we've watered it down on the palette anyway. So now our brush is nice and dry. We'll go back in, just the tip of our brush. You can see now the brush is nice and dry, so that isn't going to go anywhere. And I'm going to come around and do the very high side, so it's just the top of his knee, that. Across between the two, right down the middle. And the top of his calf muscle. Maybe a little bit there. The calf is probably the brightest bit because that's all catching direct sun. Maybe some. Now my brush is almost a dry brush, we'll just lay a little bit on there just to make it look interesting. And there we go, so that's the greens. Brown. Now we've got the Skarphedin brown. We've got to leave that over there. We're going to do bootstrap brown. So mostly we're sticking to triads tonight. Again, if you want to go over the top and just, sometimes I'll do all 6, and it's very rare you need to do that. Well, in fairness, it's never you need to do it, but so the bootstrap brown, medium, drag it out onto the palette, swirl it round, make sure I'm not overloaded. So now we're going to pick the areas of the boots where the sun is going to shine on. It's not supposed to, the light is going to catch. If you don't leave gaps by doing the valleys and the peaks, all that happens is you're overpainting the one below, and unless you're using like thin paints and building it up as glazes, which is another completely different technique, you're kind of wasting your time. So you've got to make sure you leave that original paint right at the bottom of those valleys. We are somewhere in between where we're using watered down paint anyway. Across the top of his bag there. I'll just work some of it down. The bottom edge. till it looks right. And then again, there we're going to just catch the top of those straps, but don't go to where the bag is. When we do his belt, we're going to aim for the leaving the top edge as it is, because that's against his chainmail, and then not catching the bottom, so it's like upper half of his belt with that. And then on his scabbard leather, we're just going to hit those top bits and the edges. I'm going to leave everything else. There we go. And then we're going to go do the highlights. So this is the leather brown fitting me. I'm going to load this up. Now, almost you've got to think Games Workshop edge highlight light there. So it'd be like the edge of the boot there. That little top bit there. The edge of that flabby bit. And that's the technical term for it. Boot flap. Yeah, no rude ones, please. I know what I said. I said what I said. I'm going to catch around the edge of his boot. Around the top of his boot. A little bit on the heel, just on that centre bit. Edge of the boot flap. Boot flap. I'm looking at you now, Kubler. Calm down. Don't say it. And then, yeah, we know. Calm down, Pete. Calm down. And then I had to blame someone, my friend. And we're just hitting the edges. So it's like on his bag there, look. You just want to go across the top of that edge using the side of your brush. And then just catch one edge of the belt. Probably be some top edge, some bottom edge, just a mix. A little bit on the side of the bag there. In fairness, Cubes, it was all me. It was just me being very immature. But then I do get to play with toy soldiers every day, so it's no wonder I'm immature. Okay, so let's leave that for a second and grab our favourite greedy gold. Or the Emperor's Gold in the Blanche sets is very nice, but it's a little bit dark for what we want for our purpose. I'm grabbing a brush that's a bit rubbish. I'm just going to cross guard, because why not? Looking underneath this sleeve there, I've kind of missed a bit of blue, so what I'm going to do off this gold, I'm going to just jump back on the wet palette and just sort that out, because I hate stuff not being completely done. It's a bit like some people don't paint the arm where the shield's going to go, or the saddle when they're going to stick the guy on. I have to, because I know it's not painted. And the rivets on his belt. He's even sculpted the rivets on that piece of leather on the... That's cool. Okay, let's go back to a nice brush. And back to the blues. Can you see what I mean? It's just... It might be... There's a bit around his hand, look. Because it's underneath, it's not going to need all the highlighting, so we just get that dark blue. And just fill that bit in. I'm doing it very watery paint, so it's just going to look like a big shadow under there anyway. I think there's a little bit under the other arm as well. That's very, very sloppy of me. Oh no, I didn't do this one. That was fine. There's just a little bit of gold there, so I put the darkest blue over and just blending it in with a bit of damp brush. Okay, so let's start with the next flesh tone. It's going to be our high, which is bubbly bearing flesh. Bit of medium. Don't want it too runny because obviously we want to be really controlled in these ones. So you're not putting a lot of paint, so make sure you take a lot of paint back off your brush. I'm going to go right across his brows. So 1, 2, down the middle of his nose. Pick out his lip. Cheekbones. He's even sculpted the eyelids on this, so we'll just pick the eyelids out as well. Top and bottom. A little bit on the ear. These bits on the neck, we're painting very thin line right on the highest bits of everywhere that's got flesh on. So there's that roll down the back of his neck. We're just gonna come back around there. We're gonna go the side there. I'm gonna pick up a little bit more of that flesh and just highlight the finger. So just a little bit of it, and then the knuckle, and then follow that back. And underneath, you pick up just the knuckles. Just a little tiny line, and then move back and pick out the sort of ridges where you strengthen your hand. You'll pick the ridge. Well, you don't really, but on the top of his ear. You see what I mean? So we're going to pick the top of the fingers out, but the whole of them are just touch and move away, touch, move away. Because by leaving those little gaps, your highlight makes even bigger contrast. There we go. Just a little bit round his temple there. That just needs a little bit of a lift. There we go. I'm going to put one more highlight into that, which is ruby skin. which obviously not used today. Where I usually start with a darker one, so I'm already one below that. I don't often use that one. But this is a proper jumping. You can see on there. It's a proper jumping light, so you've got real careful with this one. This is, we're just going to use this as tiny little dots. Just down the highlights, it's eyebrow. Tiny little line. Down the centre of the nose, probably starting halfway down. And just the main bit of his head where it gets shiny. Top of his ear. Picked up those veins because how angry he is in that back. Probably wouldn't have a highlight on it, but I wanted to just to show it off because I think it's cool. Just come back into the paint a little bit. Hit the top of that finger and the knuckle. Maybe a bit going down. Just little lines just suggesting and just his knuckles. Become white where he's crunching on someone because he's in a rage. Okay, so that's cool. So hair. I suppose we need him blonde, don't we, really? So there's two ways that I like going with this. This is the brownie blonde, the dirty blonde, or the saga. Oh my god, his hair's like straw. I think we should go saga. Oh my god, his hair's like straw route. Sorry about the camera. So we start with Demigod Flames, which is an orangey yellow. Because we're going over the grey, it's going to make this look a little bit. Oh, what's up with these? I've been using a new electric paint shaker. Instead of it shaking, it spins them. And I don't think it does the job properly. Oh, it went all Ghostbustery. Look at that. It's like I've seen that on Ghostbusters where the eggs are exploding. The real Ghostbusters are. Luckily, we always have a wad of. This one is, Demigod Flames. I've got lots of kitchen towel on standby for stuff like that, and it happens. Not going to save my little bit of my jacket, but never mind. So we're going to grab some medium. We want this quite thin because you want those. Thin. That's where there's too much water in my brush anyway. So empty it out. And go back in with slightly thicker and let the paint on there thin it out. As you can see, I'm just this yellow. It goes on quite bright, but where it's got a lot of medium in it. Yeah, saga straw hair. I tell the colours on him are quite muted at the moment, so I was tempted to do him like red because because why wouldn't you? Yeah, my Vortex one is died after it's about 5 years. I think they rat themselves to pieces, and it works, but it's a bit random when it does work. So I thought to myself, okay, I'll order this other one. It looks like it's been 3D printed, and it spins. It does wobble a bit, but I don't think it wobbles enough to get the agitators going. So I don't know whether it's going to be staying. It might be put up for sale in the crow's nest. Somebody else. I don't know. I don't know. Yeah, so we've gone for that yellow anyway. Back at the ranch. So now next is a fiendish yellow. Now the trick with this is there's a GW wash. I think it's something sunset. And that does work really well with this yellow. But this one was the middle one, was it? Fiendish yellow, I think. Yeah, fiendish yellow, this one. So doing the same thing, but I'm going to stay on the ridges and leave the valleys to that other colour. But if this gets too incredibly yellow, we will just knock it back with the wash. I'll just get over his moustache. It's got some nice detail in that. It's really picking up the paint nice. I would advise people to buy this miniature. It is a cracker. They're going to be making a lot of these. I like the Gunnar miniature. That's got that massive spear on it, isn't it? That's there we go. And demonic yellow, which is a very bright yellow. So I'm probably going to have to tone this down a little bit, but hey, it's like Vince says, you've got to take it to 11 to get back to 10. Demonic yellow. Although there's another yellow, I think it's called Moon Dust, and it goes that sort of, it's got a lot of white in it, so it's a great highlighter for yellows. When it dries, it goes very matte. Because we're putting the meat on, so now we're just gonna, not every strand of hair, but we're just gonna pick a little bit, stop, pick a little bit, pick a little bit. I'm using the edge of the brush, a bit like a edge highlight. Again, I'm just going to run across the top of his beard there. My favourite paint shaker is it Wahl? WAHL. They make shavers and stuff like that, they do a back massager, and one of the attachments on there, you can use a elastic band to set your paints in them, and that's the best shaper in the world, which is what the Vortex one was supposed to replace. So it's probably going to come back out of the box and back into service, but they're about 90 quid, so they are quite dear, but I've had it for like 6 years, well, probably longer. Right, so let's sort his chainmail out with some shinning silver. Okay guys, so I think it's time to mention the name of this guy again, just in case you've joined a different point in the video. This is the special 30th anniversary edition of special 30th anniversary of Gripping Beast, and they're doing him as a pre-order. I'm sorry if you've heard this, guys. I'm going to try his name again, because Ben didn't turn up and tell me which is right. It's spelled K-A-R-I, which first of all I said, is it Kári? But it's not. So it's, from what I've googled, it's either Kári or Kári, and I think Kári's probably sounds right. So it's pronounced like Kári. So yeah, but he's been sculpted by the original Beastie Boy Duncan Patten for their 30th anniversary, and he's from Njal saga, which is Njal, Gunnar, and Skarphedin. You can pre-order it now, and it's released on February the 2nd, which is the anniversary date. So get pre-ordering. I can't remember if it's 350 or 450. I did look and I've forgotten. But there he is. And he's coming along nicely. So with that said, let's get this silver. So I'll use a crappy brush, and I've gone into the wrong one. Let's wash that. I've ditched my Skull water thing for one of these fancy rinsers, which I like. Lots of people don't like them, but I like them. Yeah, Kári. So it's a shame. I was hoping that Ben would be here, so Ben would be like tell me off for getting it wrong, or praise me for having a good old go. But apologies if I've got it wrong. I meant no disrespect. So yeah, I've put the silver on, I've taken some off, and I'm just picking out the areas where I think the light will catch the chain. So that's off is fine there, but nowhere on that underbody is gonna. I'm not gonna put any under there because obviously it's all in shadow. Now his sword, we're going to do the edge highlight in that, and halfway on the back, just so we can go across the top of the point. There we go. Just let it work down the sword a little bit. I'm not doing, maybe do that back edge. Now that the brush is nice and dry, we can just hit the mothership's landing. That's enough of that. So that's a silver. Let's grab some flesh shade. I'll grab the bottle of Reichland flesh shade because I do like it, but the John Blanche flesh is the same as this because their new flesh they made was rubbish. And I'm just going to drop that onto the gold. Hopefully the mothership won't take long to land tonight. As ever on that, you've got to for that gold effect we do to work, you've really got to stack it on there. Okay, so where's our... that's the fella over there for the hair. Sorry, I think I just nudged the camera slightly. Sorry, chaps. So yeah, Cassandra Yellow. It's an old pot, so I don't know if they still do it, but I'm assuming it's probably called something else right now. The new gold, new orange in the army paint is very not quite. It's a nice one, but it's not quite this colour. And we just pop some of that into the top of the hair there. If you haven't got that orangey colour, I would say use maybe a brown. We've got a bit on his flesh there, and we're going to wash that off because where we've done those light flashes, we just don't want him to be yellow. We just don't want that to happen. So I wet the brush, I'm painting down from the cheek into the beard there, making sure that flesh is lovely, fleshy. And I'm going to go back with my brush now it's clean and take some of that orange back out. Stop it pooling up. And then just a bit around the chin. There we go. Ahoy, Mr. Marvel. Mr. Marvel Pants, I like that. He's a cracker, isn't he? I'd say people need to get... I'd get an order of these ones quite quickly. I think they're not gonna... Obviously got a little bit of yellow on that flesh. I don't want it on there. Okay, so next we're gonna paint his eyeballs in with some matte white. My cycle brush. Do you know what? This brush is still the same one as when I started this program, so it's about 5 years old, this one. So I'll just do a couple of hairs. So he's sculpted the eyes nicely so we can stay just on the eyeball. The left one's got a little bit out. It's not a problem because we're going to put a little bit of medium on around his eyes once we finish them. There we go. Let that dry. Just always keep this little bit on your very fine brushes. So the scabbard, I don't usually like, as I said, I don't usually like using black. So let's use, no. Yeah, we will. What we do is I know what we do. We'll do it black. So I just wanted to paint those bits up there leather, so I didn't want the whole piece to be leather. So just for a nice contrast, we'll put the black in there, and then we'll edge highlight the whole scabbard. Years in business, pretty stunning, isn't it? There we go. And then we're going to grab our psycho brush. I've got black on the palette. Just a little dot of it. And take some back out of the brush. There we go. I'm going to grab a little bit of the mid-tone of our flesh. Just chop it in. Make sure it's nice and clean on that. I'm picking up, he's sculpted the bottom eyelid, so I was just making sure that was picked back out. I don't know if you can see these very well on there. I don't think I can get it focused. No. But they're there. The eyelids are there. Okay, so that's the basic done. So now we're going to start messing about. First of all, we're going to sort that scabbard out. I'm going to use the base blue we used for his tunic as a edge highlight for the scabbard, just to give it some optical interest. So just those top two edges. There's a bit of water in it as well, which is great. It'll blend in, so that's cool. Nice. And then we're going to grab some bright gold. I'm going to grab a drink because my throat's getting dry. Okay. Oh. And we grab our crappier brush because obviously we've got to muck around metallic. And just load that up, and we're gonna just highlight across the top of the crossguard, the top of the pommel, edges of that. I don't know if that's got a word. The end of the scabbard. And the end of his belt. There we go. It's done. So next is the fancy pants bits. I was just checking the base was dry then. This is, you know, why wouldn't you? Okay. So next is the fancy pants bits on his tabard. Now, I think we should do like a red and gold effect on them. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to grab some, this is from the original Army Painters Abomination Gore. It's very brown and red. I don't really do that colour anymore. So I managed to snag about 10 balls. I'm going to grab my insane detail brush, which is the next bigger from the Psycho. And I'm going to paint a nice red line over all that nice blending we've done. A bit heartbreaking. I want to go quite thick because obviously I'm going to have to come down on top of it again. I'm going to sort of just below halfway between the hem and the bottom of the chainmail. I don't use a Psycho for this because it's obviously, I need the line a bit thicker. I'm going to widen some of these out a little bit. Put medium into the brush to keep it nice and moist. I'm going to do sleeves, so need a thickness of about the brush. Obviously, with his pointy finger, he obviously doesn't need a shield. When somebody's that angry that they're pointing at you, you're in trouble. They're not going to be needing a shield. You're going to be needing yours. Then I'm going to paint. I'll find out tomorrow what's happening with this miniature. Whether they want me to send photographs or send the miniature, I don't know. This might be going to the show with them, I don't know. If it's not, if it's staying at the crow's nest, we can see if we can do a competition with it or something. I'll ask Darren. He might do a competition with it out there. I don't know. I shall ask. That's all I can do, isn't it? Now we shall. Let's use the Jean Blanche. Yeah, the pointy finger of, what do you mean, where's my shield? You, mate. Why do I need a shield? I'm just about to ram this sword where the sun don't shine. Okay, so yeah, this is quite a... I want a nice contrast from that deeper brown. And we're going to grab our Psycho and we're going to paint in a broken line around it, I think. I don't think it's going to be enough contrast, mate. There is. So we'll stay inside that red line. Wow. Trouble with this little brush, it dries out quite quick. So what I do sometimes, I grab some medium and just pop it next to the paint I'm using. And every time I go back to the paint, I grab some medium on the brush, load the brush, unload the brush a little bit, then come to the miniature with it. Then paint what I want. Got 2 dots out of that. So again, back into the medium, back into the red. For a big, with hindsight, I should have done the that ready brown I used wasn't quite brown enough, so maybe used an actual brown with a bit of red in it, something like the carnelian skin. But it's still going to work for us. So when I go around this one, it will lighten up a bit. It will show. I'm just going in and out of the medium, in onto the wet palette to take some paint off. Paint my couple of dotty lines. Back into the medium, back into the red. That to dry. Do around the sleeves. Sorry guys, was I having trouble when you're doing fine stuff? You kind of can't afford to. I can't afford to check the screen to make sure I'm on the optimal. So hopefully you're seeing this. I can't even see if anyone's commented. Again, keep that medium. Paint flowing. And we get back to the bottom bit. See if we can strengthen some of them up. Oh, actually looking quite good actually now. Just going back around them now. Make that red a bit stronger. Or we could have put a purple underneath them. There we go. Now, that comes the tricky bit, because I want to use some gold, but I don't want to use my Psycho brush because it's too dear to me. So now I can go back in with my normal brush to do some dots. Now, I don't know which gold's going to be better for this one. We'll try the dark one first. Yeah, that'd be perfect. So we're going for the darker gold, and I'm just going to put a dot on each red block. Just so we get a nice little contrast going. Okay. So doing eyeball dots completely around a red line thing. Anybody else got any silly ideas? Or is this silly enough? And I'll get, like I said, I'll get some photographs of this. I'm out of the nest tomorrow, so it'll be Sunday. Yeah, I've got all the red dots. Looks that way. So now, not much left to do now. Sometimes when you do a lot of blending on the flesh, you need a little bit of put a little bit of brown wash around like the eyes and stuff like that. You got to be very careful with it because you don't want to go mad. So use like this soft tone is really watered down as well. And I'm just going to use using the old crappy brush. All I want to do is put a little bit round the eyes and the edge of the nose. To get rid of some of that glary white look. I'm going to put just a little drop between his beard and his mouth. Then his hairline, I'm just going to go around. I'm not actually painting on his face, I'm painting, I don't think you'll see it on the camera, sorry guys. So I'm actually just painting this into little areas. I want a little bit into his ear there. I say this is thinned down. This is not even as strong as the soft tone that they use. I'm just painting a little thin. And if I put it on my nail, you can hardly see how thin that is. I have to put it up. That's as thick as I can put it on my finger. But if you put it on nice and thin, and you put it in the right area, just where we've gone very light, just toning it just back a little bit in between his fingers there. A bit more down the side there. I think once you've done it, you can work around. As Vince says on Paintalong, is it Paintalong Minis, this one? I can't remember. Got to take it to 11 before you can take it back to 10. That's what you're aiming to do. There we go. Then we have our special brown mix jar, which I'll pour straight into that. Oh yeah, we can use, there's even more knacker brush there. But you see how thin that is? That's why I use a neutral pumice. And that brown is basically, when I finish painting tonight, I'll scoop all that brown off there, just dump it in there. And then just keep filling it up with matte medium till it's nice and thin. Or if you want to make one from scratch, I started that with a pot of the oak brown. So you just, if it gets a bit thick, just chuck some medium. The idea of this one is to keep it nice and thin and watery. Blimey. Because as it dries, that pumice will basically show through and give us some, it looked like it's dry brushed without it being dry brushed, basically, which is what we want it to do. That's the Pirate Rich standard. Basically, if you have a commission off me, that's how my standard basing will look. So it's nice for people just to pick up and do what I just put a couple of tufts on that, and then if somebody wants to add bits to it or put some green on it or dry brush, they can do it. So it just gives a nice standard thing, and you can match your whole armies in that way, which is nice. Well, let's have a look at this on the. So that's, I think he's done. So I was trying to get the light's a little bit out to the camera. He's got a standard there and he can't. But there he is. Let's come as close to the camera as we can. But it doesn't look brilliant under the, like he's got to look under the light. I'm struggling here. I'll put the room light on, that might help. Or I could zoom in. Shall we zoom in? We finish with the palette, and then we can hold him underneath. That's better. We can hold him underneath the light then. There we go. I like him because he's kind of an unfussy miniature. He's just going to go and kick someone's head in, isn't he? You know, I mean, there's no extra. He's not carrying extra stuff. I hope so, that because, you know, it's a special anniversary for the Beastie Boys, who are good friends to me and proper shipmates. So, you know, fair play to them. And I will give them a shout, see where this guy's going to end up, whether he's going to be on their stand or whether he's going to stay here. If he stay, I'm going to try and do it. If they're not having him back, I'll try and do a thing with him. So yeah, there he is. I will get him finished like I usually do Sunday and get him photographised. Yes, yeah, he's not got the James Workshop straps everywhere. Is it? That's how you'd go in for a fight when you might have a shield if you're not a complete headbanger. Oh yeah, you see his face now. That's what I was trying to show you earlier. Cheers, Rich. Yeah, hide him behind the scenes are all your miniatures, mate. These are great. I love these gripping beasts killing people things. So this first batch is new done, the first 10 are new done rich. So we shall crack on with that. Right, so let's go over this one more time. If you've zoomed to the end of the video because you're watching this tomorrow, it's Kári Sölmundarson, which I hope is correct, and he's to celebrate 50 years anniversary of Griffin Beast, which was established in 1996. I wrote myself a little note earlier. It's been sculpted by the original Beastie man himself, Duncan Patten, and well done, Duncan. I must say it was a real joy to paint it. It's from the Njal saga, so he joins on the Griffin Beast website in the section that's got Njál, Gunnar, and Skarphedin, I believe. You can pre-order it now, and it's going to be released on February the 2nd. I think they're going to have them at York, wherever it is. I think that's all. I've put all the details in the description today that Al sent me, and it's like a little description of the blurb that's on their website. So I believe he's on the website now as well. So go grab yourself one while you still can. That's what I'd say. Well, thank you for joining me. It's been a pleasure. Yeah, that is a shock, isn't it? Yeah, it's been a pleasure, guys. Never a chore. And oh, we were going to do what paints I used, which we don't usually do we? So here we guys. If you get to the end of the video and you want to know which paint, I'll hold them up to the screen so you can pause, basically. And let's put them in the right order for you. So the first ones were the olive greens. That was his leggings. That's the leggings, the colours we used. I'm going to have to put all these away in a minute. And then his tabard. Was these blues. There we go. His hair, his bright, crazy hair, was those three with a matte wash. Then his skin tone. That's the skin tones we used. I hope this is going to be helpful to you guys. We used lots of paints tonight. And the leather was Brigadine, Bootstrap, and Leather Brown. And we used gunmetal and shilling silver. The other was gold, and for the little stripy bits was Abomination Gore, which I'd probably swap out for maybe a reddy brown and a bright red. There we go. And so the gold, we used a bit of black, which we didn't put down, and then we edge highlighted it with the blue. There we go. So a description of what paints we used. 4, 8, 12, well, lots of paints. Right, I'm going to go because that's exactly 2 hours, which I think is not bad for quality, I think. Yeah, have a nice weekend, guys, and I will endeavour to get him pictured up on Sunday. All right, guys, thanks for joining me, and speak again soon. Bye now.